Welcome to The Truth Will Not Be Silenced, the show that allows people to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. I'm your host, Melissa Woodfork White. In today's episode, we will talk about divorce demystified with Carolyn Martin. Sharing our stories allows us to encourage, inspire, motivate, uplift, and help people. There will be a special surprise at the end of the show. Be sure to listen all the way through for the details. Our special guest today is Carolyn Martin. She is a native of St. Louis, Missouri, and she's been a resident of Phoenix, Arizona for 14 years. She obtained her bachelor's degree in hospitality management from Bethune-Cookman University in 2009, HBCU.
Hey,
Carolyn has 10 years of experience in hospitality as a supervisor and manager at 5 startup hotels and resorts. She is currently the owner of Line of Styles, a natural hair salon, and the author of How I Detangle My Natural Hair. Carolyn is going to share with us about divorce demystified. Hi, Carolyn. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right, me too. Let's go ahead and jump into our first question.
All right, let's
Can you
go.
share your experience from before you got married, when you were married, and when you got divorced, and life after divorce? You could take it in parts.
Ooh, that's a lot. Okay. So before marriage, I got married at 25. So I had just graduated. I was in a relationship prior to, and then I broke up. Well, he broke up with me. And then I ended up seeing a friend from high school, or actually like childhood, fourth all the way up to high school is when I knew him. And so I had a crush on him at one point. I was like, oh, let me say something. So I said something. And then we went on a couple of dates. And then, boom, one day we were like, I was like, oh no. A lady actually walked up to me and was like, um, there's a bun in your oven. And I was like, ma'am, get away from me. No, no, it's not. And I worked with her at a hotel. And I was like, right. And so I ended up taking the test, got scared. I'm like, okay, it said no. And then like a couple weeks later, yeah, I definitely there was a bun in my oven. So everything happened really quickly, but we ended up he proposed by the time we got to the baby shower. And I was 25 then, he was 24. And so we talked about moving because I did not want to stay in St. Louis. It's cold, way too cold. So my mom lived out here in Phoenix, so I decided, hey, like let's pick some places. So we literally drew out of a little hat of 3 areas we wanted to move to, and
Uh-huh.
we were like, boom, we're moving. So we waited until we had our daughter, but it was crazy because we had the baby shower, and then like 2 weeks later, we went into the courthouse. We got married, and then she came the next day, and I was like, oh great,
She came the
like
day after you guys got married.
yep, she just
Oh,
and I was like, I was young, but my sister is an OB nurse, so I'm calling her. I'm like, girl, I'm uncomfortable. I feel weird, and she was like, uh-huh. And then that pain kicked in, and I was like, oh my God, what was that? So she came like 2 weeks early, and then a month later we moved out here to Phoenix. So um, everything happened so fast. I don't think a lot of it I really processed at that time.
mhm.
Like some people have asked me, do I feel like I was too young? And I really don't feel like I was too young because I was pretty established at that point. I had my own place. I had a good job as a supervisor at a hotel. So I was like, okay. But just how quickly things moved was like, whoa. We had a good conversation about basically, getting married for kids and all of that. And I was like, absolutely not. So for my understanding, I was like, boom, okay, you asked me, so you really want to be with me? Let's do it. So it was a process because it was a roller coaster more so. Once we were married and pretty much got settled in our own place, I think that I think that he may have been too young when I look back at it. There was signs of infidelity, but I was just kind of like, you know, it's okay, it's not a big deal. Like we're young, so I kind of made excuses for being young. And that's where one I saw like the biggest fault once I look back at everything. So I tried to keep him preoccupied. So we did go on dates here and there, but a lot of the marriage was like really focused on the kids. So
So even though
uh,
you had said, Caroline, that you are not going to marry for kids, that became the focus.
that became the focus. And I was like, oh my gosh. So there was what was that group? Meetup at the time. So I created a group for like young black married people our age with kids so we could be around people that were like-minded.
Hmm.
And I feel like sometimes it worked and I feel like sometimes it didn't. There
Okay.
were times that, like, of course, it irritated him because girl, I was planning all types of stuff. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go over here to their house and we're gonna hang out and blah 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 blah. And after a while, that got tiring. I was like, I'm tired. So, I kind of just really let things flow. And by the time we had our second child, I was just like, okay, maybe he is really happy, maybe he's at this point. But then we did a 5-year vow renewal, and that's when I kind of noticed, but I don't think I wanted to accept that that's not what he really wanted. And so he didn't get his suit until like the week of. Um,
Oh my gosh, that's a major red flag.
it was I didn't have the guts to tell my mom, hey, let's not do this. I
Do you
think
think that if you told your mom, y'all would have had that vow renewal?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I was honestly, I had so much pride because in my mind, that's not, I didn't get married because we were having a child. And I didn't want to be the stereotype, as everybody likes to say. So, and I didn't want to be a single mom because I've seen that so much in my family on both sides. I was like, no, that's not going to be me. Oh my God. And so I stuck it out. But then later that year, my dad was killed, and that's when reality set in. He was not there for me emotionally, mentally. He wasn't there. So it was just like I went through a depression with that, and that's when the light kicked on that that was not the place for me.
Mhm.
So I started planning me leaving. We did go to therapy because my mom actually was like, "Go to therapy," and I was like, "Okay." That didn't work, and so I was like, "Okay,
Wait,
well, I'm
wait, wait,
gonna
wait, wait,
have
wait.
a therapy."
Why did that not work? Because you said it didn't work. Why did it? Was it the both of you? Was it you? Was it him? Why did that not work?
It was him. He wasn't honest. There was definitely infidelity and I think that was the thing. Like I wanted proof. Like I was like, let me find out. I was like, if he can be honest, but there was no honesty about it, and so I was just like, no. She told us that we would have to start all the way over. We just date all over again. And I was like, ma'am, I am not starting over with somebody that's not gonna change. She was like, oh, okay. And that was my first time doing therapy. And she was like, have you done this before? I said, no, I just have my mind made up that if there's no honesty, what am I starting over for? So um, yeah, I filed the papers, went through the divorce, and then after divorce, I stay with
Pause
my
there, pause
mom.
there, pause there.
Go ahead.
Tell us about that process. You went through the
Oh,
divorce.
mine
Give us
actually
a short
went,
version, but give us
yeah,
the
mine actually went really quickly. I
okay.
filed in August and I was divorced by December. So we didn't have a lot of assets. The only major asset we had was a car.
Mhm.
And so I basically told him the car that was in my name. He was like, well, you have to keep that one, even though he gifted me a car. And I said, no problem. My alimony will be you paying that car until it's paid off and carry on. So
Oh, okay. So he
there's
just
a,
pretty much
there's,
what you had said, and then
yeah, he didn't want to take the time off of work. So there's I think that it's still in existence here, but it's a divorce decree where if you divorce consent decree, I believe it's called, if you both agree, and everything. You file the paperwork, send it, the judge looks it over, and they sign off on it. And so that's what we did. So we went through all the paperwork and had it notarized at the courthouse, mailed it off, and then one day it was just in the mail, and that was it. And I
Wow.
was like,
I have to
oh,
ask you, as you're sharing your story, did he fight for you?
a little bit. There was, it was more verbal than actions. And I think that's where I was like, right. I'm not really materialistic either.
Mhm.
So he would buy like little purses or he'd buy like a plant. I don't know why he bought me a plant because I did not have a green thumb. I'm so bad with it. Um, he wrote me a couple letters, and I think having a such a traumatic loss and him not being supportive, I just couldn't do it. I was like, there's no way that I could trust you because when I needed you the most, where were you? And so I think for him, it was probably, well, yeah, it was shocking, but I never understood why. I was like, why are you surprised? What are you shocked for?
Wait. I know you saw my face to the viewers that are watching this. Wait, it was shocking to him?
I think so. When I first, because you have to deliver the initial papers,
Mhm.
and I did it by mail twice, and then I finally had to go in person. And he's, no, no, I'm not signing this. I'm not signing this. And I'm like, you don't even want me. Why are you? What is happening? And so it was very interesting. I don't know if it was just because it was just overall a loss that he felt like he was having. Um, but yeah, I was like, what are you upset about? Like, what? And a lot of that was because he did tell me a lot during the time that we were married. We were married for 6.5 years, and he
Mhm.
was like, "Well, I'm just here because of the kids." And
Wait, he actually said those words to you, and this was after.
this was
Going
before.
back to when before you had got married, he was like, I
Hmm.
want you. I'm not marrying you for the kids. But while you were married, he said those words to you.
Hmm. And it
Wow.
was, and my grandma, it's so funny because she was like, he didn't mean it. And I was like, well, he said it sober, angry, drunk. She said, okay, never mind. I said, okay. And I told him one day, I was like, you say it one more time, I'm out. And that's when I knew that I really was just like, nope,
But why did you take it for so long, Carolyn?
just that whole stereotype. I did not want to be the single mom. I didn't want it to look like, oh, we got married because we had kids, because that's not what my whole idea was. And
Mhm.
so, um, yeah, I did not want anybody to be, I guess, quote unquote, talking about me because, oh no, they got a divorce.
Mhm.
But losing my dad made me be like, girl, what are you doing and why? And so, I tell people all the time, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have. I probably would have just stuck it out. And one thing my
You would
mom,
still be married, right?
I probably would. My mom always told me never stay with someone for kids. And I didn't understand that until I was getting to that point. And
Hmm.
that's one thing that resonated with me was like, what am I here for? Why am I here? Why am I here? What am I doing? Am I doing this because, I didn't have it? Like, what am I doing? So it took a lot. And one thing, I'm more so the baby in my family.
Hmm.
So normally I'm always asking my family, for advice. And I was like, nope, not this time. So when I told everybody, they were like, wait, what's happening? And because I never told anyone what was going on and what I would be dealing with, they were just like, I'm confused. What's happening? And I was like, yeah, well, time to go.
But you know
So,
what, Caroline? I think that's first of all, I want to say my condolences for the loss of your father. And I
thank
also
you.
wanted to say thank you for sharing that. And I know that you did not have to share that, but I know that that's going to help somebody.
Hmm.
I also wanted to say that you did what most of us are taught to do. You
Hmm.
keep your business in your house, in your
Hmm.
house. You don't let that. Whereas in today, everybody in everybody's house know what's going on because they talking outside their house. And I'm just like,
I think so.
we don't come from that. And
No.
so that's why they were in shock, is because you didn't tell it wasn't your business to tell. That was between you and your then
Mhm.
husband. That's what you all were going through, the steps and things that you were taking, the therapy, everything that you did before you called it quits. So that's why they would be in shock. But I'm
Mhm.
just like, what you did, I'm the same way. You ain't gonna know what's going on between me and my husband in our house,
Mhm.
because that's
Yeah.
our business.
My biggest thing was I was like, if I'm complaining to everybody, but I'm staying, they gonna be mad, and then I'm over here trying to be Miss Fix It, and no, never mind.
Mm.
I'ma just so that's what I did.
So tell us about after the
Um,
divorce.
after
Start at the
divorce,
start at the beginning of that because I
cool.
know that it has changed throughout the years.
It has. It's
Okay.
been what 7.5, 8 years, and it's different. At first it was scary,
Mm.
and then once I really got on my feet, I was like, "Oh, this is not bad." Like co-parenting went very well, so it was like, "All right, I got breaks." What? No kids, so I would just pretty much do the things that I used to really like to do, and I just started enjoying myself.
Hmm.
I took more trips, which I didn't do when I was married. So a lot of that
Oh,
was
wait,
just
wait,
like,
wait. You all did
yes,
not take trips together as a married couple. Come on now, Caroline.
we went to Vegas, we went to Sedona.
I'm
I
listening.
went, and we went back home one
Okay.
time out of 6.5 years. Yes, I know. Oh gosh. Yeah, so I traveled. I made sure that I traveled for my birthday a lot more than I did. I was like, no. And I celebrate my birthday way more now. And people are like, is it a milestone? Nope, it is not. One day, I mean, I literally had I rented an Airbnb. We did a dinner outside. We had formal attire out. They were like, girl, this is only like your 35th. I was like, that's okay. I don't care. But those are things that I really, at that age, like I ideally thought I would be doing. And so I was like, no, I'm doing all of these things now. Like, if you want to come, then come. If not, then whatever, don't come.
Right?
So,
I'm
yeah,
the same way as you. I don't care what number it is. I'm going all out for my
I'm going
birthday.
all out.
We're doing something. We're going
The whole
somewhere.
weekend is planned.
Hello, hello, hello. Let me tell you what, I'm a little bit bad on this one. Good, but bad. Bad, but good.
Uh-oh.
I do the whole month.
The
Me
whole,
and my husband,
mm,
we do the whole weekend.
I try to
But then we do the
behave,
whole month. He takes me somewhere every weekend, the whole month of September, because he
mm,
knows how important that is for me
but
to
no, that's
celebrate my
good
birthday.
though. And that's the type of thing, like, that's kind of what I talked to my daughter about. She's 13, about dating. I'm like, make sure you find somebody that cares about what you like
Mm,
as you're in that relationship. It just really plays a big part. And so that just made me think of that. 'Cause like, yeah, like somebody, whoever I end up dating, they better know, listen, I want to go to all these different places.
yeah.
Like one year I went to the symphony in San Diego, and my friends were
Oh
like,
my gosh, how was
"You're
that?
going to the
Not trying
symphony?"
to get off the track, but that just
I
sounds
know. So
beautiful.
it was
Yes.
really nice. It was interesting because I'm very dressed to impress. Like that's it's better overdressed than underdressed. So when we got there, we were like, why are there people in shorts and t-shirts?
Jeans.
Okay, oops. But I was like, whatever, I don't care. But it was really nice. I really enjoyed it because I haven't been since I was, I don't even know, like teenager. So
Okay.
it was really nice. I enjoyed it. So stuff like that.
So you started to share with us about how divorce was in the beginning. So how has
Mhm.
it changed to the present?
Now it is difficult. I feel like in the beginning, from what I've seen, is when someone's trying to rekindle, they try to, still flirt and call and talk and be funny and all those things. And then I think when reality set in, everything changed. And so now it went from co-parenting to just me. And then it's like, okay. And then he also is in a new relationship, which I was like, yay, bravo. But
Mhm.
I thought it would be better, but
Mhm.
then it's just been a roller coaster. And so being by myself with the kids, that was difficult. I got to a point where I worked every day, like nonstop, trying to just get everything through. And it was right after COVID. So it was like, all right, let me just grind, grind, grind. And it was to a point where I was like, oh my God, I am losing it. And so I started therapy, and that really helped me just understand a lot. Like that one, there's nothing that I did, there's nothing that I can do, there's nothing that I can change. And then also just realizing that I have to balance, I have to find stuff to do for myself, no matter what, with or without a co-parent.
Mhm.
So I've gotten to that point now. There's still some moments where I have to reality check myself
Yeah.
and be like, ugh, and like, okay, let me go do this. But then I also make sure that I'm very open with my kids. Like I tell my kids, and even just with them, if they're having a moment, if I'm having a moment, hey, I need some space. Give me like 10, 15 minutes. And I feel like that works better. I don't think as when we were kids, our parents realized how resilient we could be and just able to adjust and adapt to certain things.
Mhm.
So I make sure that I express those things. I mean, I was already a mom that apologized for saying things the wrong way or just things they didn't understand. So I just took it a step further and just, hey, I need a moment. Give me a moment. I'll be right
Mhm.
back. Or even now, like now that they're older, it's a little easier because I can go places and I know that they're okay.
Mhm.
And also just it made me realize that kids learn things a lot faster when they're younger than what we think.
Mhm.
Um, because of COVID, my daughter been cooking since she was 9. And people be like, she was doing what? And I'm like, yes, teach them the basics. All that,
Yeah.
don't touch this, don't touch that, don't touch that. I could not stand it. And I'm glad
Mhm.
that I did it because it was easier to teach her how to work the stove, how to work the oven. And now because there's air fryers, it's a lot easier.
Mhm.
So, um, working hard and just being able to balance work, fun, and kids, it makes it a lot easier for me. So there's times where I am definitely in my car screaming, but
Mhm.
at the same time, it works.
That's as real as it gets, Carolyn.
Mhm.
I just want to know if I heard you correctly.
Mhm.
When you first had got divorced, you and your ex-husband, you were both single. You
Mhm.
were co-parenting, everything was great.
Mhm.
But then when he got a new partner, you thought that, well, you still think that that's great, but you thought that you would still be co-parenting and so forth. And
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Yeah.
And
And I
so
don't.
that's where the difficulty has come in.
Yeah.
Did I hear you correctly?
And I don't know if it's because he just, from what I've heard from others, is sometimes people don't know how to balance the two, or they don't know how to mesh the two. And I want to say that's people that haven't had blended families before.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had blended family growing up, so I can understand it. Like my mom and my dad, both of their significant others, they all had conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So having that as an example, I was like, oh well, hey, tell her I said, hey, like she can call
Right?
me, I don't care, whatever, whatever. And it's getting to that point now where there's a better understanding that hey, you can say whatever, you can call me if it's something going on. So I had to realize that I had to stop trying to fix it
Yeah.
because it just
Yeah.
no.
And let it just fix itself.
Yep, I had to let it fix itself.
Mhm. So I have to ask you, is it getting better or are you still at that point where
Um,
you got to go in your car and scream?
I still wear my phone screen,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like one, it is hard to tell because when you don't trust someone,
Mhm.
It's like how can you really know for sure that it's getting better? So while there's a lot of talking,
Mhm.
there for me right now, I'm like, I need to see something. I need to see a change. I need to see the difference.
Mhm.
So I can't even answer that right now.
Well,
I'm just rolling with
you
the
you
punches.
well, no, you did answer it. I just
Was
you
true.
did answer it. And so that sounds like confirmation to me, Caroline, because when you were married, he did a lot of the talking and not a lot of the showing. And when
Hmm.
you're divorced, he's the same way.
Right.
From what I understood, I understand what you're saying is that he hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
And so I just want to commend you. But there's one more thing that I do want you to touch on before we wrap this up is what are some of the myths about life after divorce? I want you to explain to us the single parent and that co-parenting.
So for me, because I've experienced both,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people automatically feel like men will say, hey, nobody is going to want to date you because you have kids. That's not even true.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Myth.
yes, this whole myth. And then two, a lot of times people will tell you to like take time, take space, and learn yourself and all that stuff. I think from what I learned just from myself is because I was already at a point where a lot of times I was by myself,
Mm-hmm.
that I already had that process going before I was out the door. And so I knew like, hey, I want to start to travel. I want to start to do this. Like I knew that I wanted somebody that could communicate. I wanted somebody that was going to be more of a friend
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. And so with the single parent life, like I always tell people, I have friends that have their co-parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that it's been rocky, I'm like, look, there's a difference. Don't complain, but watch the complaints because sometimes we can complain about, oh my God, he's a whole hour late and what is he doing? This is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. But then you're venting to someone that the co parent isn't showing up.
Mm-hmm.
We just sitting over here like, oh, he's late. Oh, darn. Like, it's one of those. Really? So it's
Yes.
one of those where a lot of times we really don't realize. And I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just unconsciously we don't think about like, hey, like I'm over here complaining, but I'm about to have a whole week off, or I'm about to have a whole 4 days off, or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, all right, yeah, bro, I'm gonna meet you, but hold on, let me get the kids together, let me cook this, let me do this, let me do that.
Oh.
And I'm trying to run out the door, and my son is definitely a mama's boy, so he's like, hey, mom, where you going? What you doing? Who you going with? What time? I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that where we don't realize the difference between the two, like how much more freedom you have to just live life or just, escape for a little bit as far as being a parent. So those are the things that I think too.
And I learned that from you because I was like, what you're saying is so true. It's a myth. Just because you are divorced doesn't mean that you are a single parent when you are co-parenting. That's a
Hmm.
myth.
Hmm.
You have the freedom where you can still do all the things that you used to be able to do when you first had got divorced. Whereas when you are a single parent, you don't really have that co-parenting anymore that can give you those breaks, those time out, come you get the kids this weekend, I'll take them next weekend kind of thing. You
Hmm.
are with them 24/7.
Hmm.
That is being a single parent.
Yeah.
Did I get that right, Carolyn?
Yes. And a lot of times too, like I have to remind myself, even when they do, if they go to their friend's house, if they go with my mom or someone, I'm like, okay, I have to really, 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 really make myself take off. And that's really hard when, you're footing the bill for yourself and other people.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, if I take off today, and so that's a struggle that I have. Like I don't. Like they just recently went with him for 2 days and I worked 12 hours both days they were gone.
Mm,
Why? because I knew I had things to take care of, but I also
Mhm.
was like, oh my God. And so I ended up wearing myself out by working 12 hours and then trying to go out and have fun and then work 12 hours again. And then I'm like, ah, and now they're back. Like
Right.
there was no real relaxation. So I feel like that's a struggle that a lot of like single moms
Hmm.
really have is we're trying to still take care of responsibilities, but then have fun. And then, oh God, they're back so quickly. Like, what just happened? Like, you don't even notice that they're gone
Right.
outside
Well,
of the no mommy.
well, I just want to tell you, thank you so much, Carolyn, for sharing your story with us today and for demystifying divorce. Because you didn't just demystify divorce, you also demystified marriage when you had shared about the reasons why you got married and the reasons why he said he got married, but it really showed the difference, which was a part to leading to the divorce. You
Mm-hmm.
demystified that too, because as far as you're concerned, you didn't get married for children. You demystified
Right.
that. You got married for love. You got married because he wanted you. And
Mm-hmm.
so even though his version is different from your version, you didn't, that's not your myth, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah, I
And
get
so,
that.
and so with that being said, tell everybody how they can get in contact with you because I have to tell you, she keeps my hair laid for those of you that are watching. And so go ahead and share your handles, your information, your website links. How can they reach out to you?
So I am on LinkedIn. You can find me on there, Carolyn Martin. I'm also on Instagram. It's line underscore of underscore styles STYLEZ. And you can also email me at lineofstyles.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Carolyn.
You're welcome. This is really nice. I
Thank
mean, I know
you.
people, I will give clients advice about marriage and stuff like that, but this was really cool. I really enjoy it because I feel like people learn from a lot of different things. So
Yes.
this
And
was
you
cool.
you shared a lot. It's going to help a lot of people. Thanks again, Carolyn. The
You are
surprise.
welcome.
If you like or leave a positive comment about our show, you will get a shout out. This includes businesses, products, services, organizations, and events. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout is the best way to launch a professional podcast. Want to ask a question, be a guest, or subscribe to our podcast, The Truth Will Not Be Silenced? Click on the show link. Thank you so much for joining us.